Locho sampo pa gyu trashi pa tu che tempe trinle yarngo da pelge drolor zambe ze parache palde lame shabla solvade Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timo Nishasane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timo Nishasane Karma Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Utta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Utta Vardanya Shri Bhad Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Ningne Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Visu Lekshun Ila Sambe Deden Malupa Gemel Hungi Drupra Jingil Sonyi Sodan Dikdun Shabe Tse Dungi Namge Yinsu Lekshun Lapchen tsonye yonso zoba dan cheran nye dun chora jingil chanchu parge nyinsen tukun tu nyu peme siudru lekshun chanchu drube gegen kun shishi tungen dela drubra jingil dagi lona chela choba dan chumi samchur ngenba shiwa dan chedan tumbe dedun malupa beme lungi drubra dorna tingne tserawa tamche dan Teji pardo nega utamche tu rese kyamne lama kele me tukche chingi dala siksu su gongyab drewe nyamda dachala chetsun lame tukche rabgongne kodan sunge nawa drame tu nyamso nyongwe kesan toprash kewa kundu yanda lama dan drame chiki pela longche chi sadan lamge yende rabzone Dorje change koba nyurtoba sho Pakyuke kudang dagi Lo pakyuke sundan dagi Pakyuke tudang dagi Teyerme chiktu jingilo Pakyuke kudang dagi lo Pakyuke sundan dagi nga Pakyuke tudang dagi Teyerme chiktu jingilo Makyuke kudang dagi lo ma kyu ke sunda anda gi nga ma kyu ke tu dang da gi ten yer me chik tu jing lo. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha. Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamunye Swaha. Sangye chedan soge chonam la janchu pardo dani kyapsu che dage jinso give sonam gi drola pinchre sangye drupa resho. Sangye chedan soge chonam la janchu pardo dani kyapsu che dage jinso give sonam gi drola pinchre sangye drupa resh. Sangye chedan sogi chonam la janchu pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi drola pinchre sangye drupa reshu. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Whenever we listen to something, whenever we see something, we see a situation, we can maybe look at a movie, or when we listen to a person talking, or we read a book, we read a text. Our perception normally is that I am reading the book, I am listening to the words, and I am seeing the facts. This is how we normally perceive things, no? But the fact is that actually, when it's truly, actually we are listening the words, we are seeing the facts, that's true also. But the way how we listen and what we listen and so on, it's deeply influenced by the culture in which we grow up, by the education we received, by the mentality we have, by the worldview within which we live. So, the same text, the same book, if read in two different contexts, with people with two different culture and education and mentality, within two different worldviews, the book will bring different messages. Because when we read something, we understand it, we interpret it, we understand it through our own experience and through the basis of understanding and knowledge that we have. Okay, and this is how it is. Nothing wrong with it. But it is important for us to understand that when we listen to something, yes, we are listening to the words, but we listen it through ourselves. We are not listening independently of our own worldview, independently of our own culture and so on. So what happened is that when we look at the teachings of Buddha, the original teachings, when, for example, we go to read the sutras, for me personally, they are quite difficult. Some sutras are easy to understand. But many of the sutras, take, for example, the Mahayana sutras of the perfection of wisdom, the most well-known sutras, so difficult to understand. Okay, once you understand it, then it's easy, but like, for example, the Heart Sutra. The meaning is not so complicated, truly speaking, but you need first to have someone that explain you word by word what it means. Otherwise, just by reading the first time, it's not possible to get the meaning. Why was it done like that? Because the people at the time, when it was taught, they didn't need extra explanation. With few words, they could grab the meaning. And if we look, what happened gradually in history is that century after century, slowly there were coming new masters that had the understanding of the meaning, but see that the common people could not understand. So they would explain, oh, here it said this and it means that. And then they would write a commentary. Then after some time, we needed the commentary of the commentary. Then there's the commentary of the commentary of the commentary of the commentary, and like this we go on. Huh? Like when we study, for example, correct view of reality, normally we would study one text, which is the commentary of the text of Lama Tsongkhapa, which is the commentary of the text of Chandrakirti, which is the commentary of the text of Nagarjuna, which is the commentary of the Sutra of Buddha. And like this we can go on and on and on. There are many, many other texts which is in the same way. No? So we are very fortunate that these great masters of the past, they were able to connect us to the real meaning, what this master meant, what Buddha meant when writing this, what this master meant when saying that, which without an explanation, most probably most of us are not able truly to understand it. So that's why we have many commentaries and so on. Even when I was studying in Seda Monastery, we study one text which is called the Abhisamaya Lankara, Mondogyen, the ornament of clear realization, which was taught by Buddha Maitreya, written by a Sangha, and which is a commentary on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra of Buddha Shakyamuni. And anyhow, this is the basis for Lamrim after. And normally the text itself is not so long. It's maybe 50 pages in a small paper size. And normally it takes like 7 years to study it. And just the first part, which is the praises, when the text starts, no? Nyendo shiwe tsonum kunshe nigi nyershi chize kanyendan rola pembar chelam nanshe nigi jikden tundru zeba kan kanda yandan dembe tuna nambar kunde natso disumba nyendo janju zembe tsoje sange geni yum tela chatselo, which is the praise. It takes almost a year to study it. And someone will say, wow, how can you pass 1 year in just 4 lines, no? But actually, if we really analyze, and we just take, for instance, the prayer that most of us know, in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge into enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Now, if we need truly to study it well and to understand its meaning completely, we need to go through what is Buddha, what is Dharma, what is the Sangha. Already to understand what is the Buddha, actually it needs to understand what is the correct view of reality, okay? Just to make it simple. Then, okay, I take refuge. What does it mean to take refuge to this? You need to go through all the suffering of samsara, understand all of this. And then, okay, practice of generosity and the other perfections. What are the other perfections? What is the path to enlightenment? What's the meaning to wish to reach enlightenment for the benefit of other sentient beings? Etc., etc., etc. It takes a year at least. So, actually, what happens is that when we have other concepts which are already built up in ourselves, then it's more easy, no? We just put parts together. It's like when I was explaining, giving a sort of commentary of self-healing to my teacher in Tibet. It took maybe 3 hours, and I had a complete thing which normally would take 10 days. No? Because basically he has all the knowledge, so you don't need to explain anything. Just say the little word and half word, and he already got the whole rest of the meaning. No? I want to say this because what happened is that when the teachings of Buddha were firstly given, and later in the centuries that came after, where the Buddha teachings developed for a long time, which was in India, and later it went to the north of India. Mahayana teachings mainly went to the north of India. So we have Nepal, we have the area which nowadays is in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Then there is Tibet after, China, and so on. Okay, Indonesia, and all these places. The context in which the teachings were given, the mentality, the worldview, was quite different than the one of nowadays, where we live, where we are. The fundamental needs are the same. That's why the teachings still work today. But there were some aspects which were very different. For instance, most of us, I cannot say all because I don't know the life of every one of us here, but most of us, we grew up with a worldview which is based on a monotheistic, maybe what we call Judaico-Christian background. Which means there is a whole worldview which is brought to us, and we grow within that, and it influences many things in our lives. So when we listen to the teachings with that background, we understand things differently than someone that listens to the same teachings with an polytheistic Hindu background. It's different. So the important thing is that when we listen to very fundamental teachings such as the Four Noble Truths and so on, the meaning of taking refuge and all of this, we need to go back to it again and again after many years. And we will see that we will listen to it and we will look at it with a complete different way and perspective. Because our culture somehow has changed in time. And because of this, the point that I want to come actually is that there are some very fundamental concepts which are not complicated truly, but it's not so easy to really get to the actual concept, and very easily we can, we can remain in a sort of misunderstanding, which is not, we cannot maybe very easily, it's possible for us not to grab at the actual true meaning of it. Because there are concepts which in our culture simply don't exist. So we need to build up concepts. And this takes time. Okay? And some of the concepts that I wanted especially to go through this 2 days is the concept of karma. And together with the concept of karma, there is the concept of accumulation of merit and the concept of purification. Because when we do a practice of purification, just to do the sadhana and to explain the visualization and to do the mantra, it's all written there. It's not so difficult, actually. Okay? And we can do together as we will do. But it is, I believe it's very important for us to go one step behind and actually understand first basically what do we mean by purification? What it is, what am I doing actually here? Otherwise, we can do it with a lot of good intention, but with some wrong understanding, which is not danger necessarily, but we still don't get the point. So I like to share a little bit of that, okay? So, the object of today, as I said, is for us to understand better the practice of purification. But in order to understand purification, we must understand the law of karma. In order to understand karma, we must understand interdependence. Okay. So we would like first of all to start by the basis. Because if we do not have an understanding of interdependence and we go through the karma, then we can have a complete wrong understanding, which externally may look right, but deeply it's wrong. So, which basically is the fact that if we don't have an understanding of interdependence, then we think that karma is basically a system of punishment and reward. It has nothing to do with that. Okay? So, for purification and accumulation, we need first to understand karma. In order to understand karma, we need to understand interdependence. So let's go to that first. One of the most fundamental aspects of reality and one of the most important concepts that we need to understand is the fact that everything that exists is interconnected. That nothing comes from nothing and nothing ends in nothing. Everything that is there, it is deeply connected to each other. Everything that exists, it exists because of many different causes and conditions that were interacting with each other, and suddenly, boom, it's there. No? And actually, if we look to any phenomena, it can be the book that is in my hand, it can be the table, the glass with the water and the lemon, it can be a grain of rice, the sun, the stars, the moon, the tree, a sensation, an understanding, a concept. It can be anything. Okay? Even the stupid program in television. Anything. If we really look at it and try to understand and analyze the interdependence of it, see how many things were necessary for it to be as it is. How fragile from one side and how strong from another. And how itself is interacting with so many, and how many possibilities lies within it. Wow, it's incredible. Actually, it's touching to observe anything. We can get emotioned by just observing anything. You know? If we take an example of the grain of rice, no? I get always amazed when I think about these things. You know, if we take one grain of rice, if we take this grain and we interact with it in a certain way. For example, we give water for a period of time, then we take out water. Then we put some water again, and then we take out the water again. What is going to happen to the grain of rice? It's going to, how do you say in English? To germinate, to sprout. Okay? So the grain of rice will sprout. You start seeing that little white thing, then the grain opens and suddenly comes something green out of it. Where is it coming from, you know? There was nothing inside before. And then the properties of the grain changes completely. It becomes with more proteins, whatever, you know? And then we look at it and it's really amazing. For me, if we really look at it, it's like, wow. You know? And then, where is all this coming from? It's coming from a complex interdependence. Very complex. And so we see that if that small grain of rice, if we give the right conditions to it, it has such a big potential. And at the same time, it brings together with it the memory of the past. And it has already so much within it. It's incredible. But it's not only a seed. A seed is a very special phenomenon. This is no doubt. But it's not only a seed. Anything that we analyze, it has so much potential and so many infinite possibilities within it. And it comes from such a complex interdependence. It's amazing. Anything that we look. And what it means also is that actually every action we do, every word we say, every choice we make, every thought we have, it has a lot of influences and results on everything else that happens. Nothing is isolated from the rest. Nothing. No? Culture, history, everything that we look, it's constantly connected one to each other and is constantly interacting one to each other. And we are part of this interdependence. We are not an observer looking interdependence from outside. We are a complete part of it. We are also interdependent. And in one way, we are constantly interacting with all the other phenomena, and basically we could say there are three kinds of phenomena that we constantly interact, which mainly is our mind, our body, and the environment. And within the environment, there are all the beings living inside the environment. And it's very vast, the whole environment concept, okay? And then if we look, even the body, that we take for granted the body very often, how complex is our body? It's incredible, actually. When we really start observing the body and seeing so many things and how many things need to happen, and if one thing is not happening the right way, then all the other is not going well also, no? And if we think only how many beings are living in our body, there are more microorganisms in our body than human beings living in this planet, And then suddenly come one microorganism that is not in harmony with the others, and boom, we have problem, And then there is this, it's incredible to see all this complex interdependence. The other day I was looking at one documentary about the body, and there was a part which was showing how happens the process of conception. It's crazy. It's really, really amazing, the whole thing that happens and how it goes. It's shocking somehow. But it's not only that, any aspect that you see of so many other things. How our body works on the system of, our immune system is working and the cells are multiplying. It's crazy. Actually, it's not crazy. We are crazy that we don't understand it, but it's amazing. And all of this, it's true interdependence. It's all an example of interdependence. How one thing is connected to the other, that is connected to the other. So we can say that indirectly, all phenomena are connected. Directly, we are connected, each phenomenon is connected with many, many, many others. Indirectly, everything is connected. Just making a very basic example is like, if I fight with someone in my job, then the person gets upset, he goes back home, fight with his wife and children because he was upset from the job. Indirectly, I am harming the wife and the children. No? So indirectly, directly we connect to those that are around us and so on. Indirectly, we connect with everything is connected. So this is the first basic concept, fundamental concept, which is very different from other worldviews. For example, if we make the question, why this have happened? Whenever anything happens, normally when we don't have no answer for something, and say, but why have it happened? Why is it like this? The normal answer that we find within the monotheistic religions and worldview is that normally what I listen is people say, it's like this because God wished it in this way. Right? I don't know how it's said normally in English, but in the Portuguese we put it very clear. É assim porque Deus quis. It's like that because God wanted to be in this way. And in Italian it's the same, and in English I suppose we have the same saying also. So what would be the answer in a Buddhist perspective? Why is it like this? Because causes and conditions were there for it to be like that. Nothing else. And what happens is that when something happens and that goes out of our own worldview of what is possible, then we call it a miracle. But in this other sense, miracles don't exist. Depends, what Rinpoche says. What we have is hard work miracle. But miracle basically are things that happen and that we cannot understand how they happened. So we can see the fact, but we don't know the connection of how they came out. So actually almost everything is a miracle from that point of view. But just we get used to some things. That's why we don't call them miracles. But everything happens out of interdependence. That's it. So, and we are part of this interdependence. We are constantly relating to each and everything else. So this is a very important, fundamental
concept that we need to understand, reflect, and bring it as a basis for all the rest. Because karma is not something separated from interdependence. Karma is one aspect of interdependence. That's why it's so important first to go through the interdependence and to understand it first. You know, if we are here today, how many causes and conditions were necessary for this moment to exist as it is? How many things needed to happen? So many. And every little thing has an impact on the rest, even though we are not aware of it. But when we analyze it, we can see it better. So, this is the first concept. I hold myself not to go into more details, because the objective is explaining the practice of purification and doing it together. But we first start by having an understanding of interdependence. I hope it's clear, no? This first aspect. Okay? Once we see that everything is interdependent, what happens at the same time is that within this interdependence, we are part of it. We are not something separated from this interdependence. So when something happens to us, when we experience anything, where is this actually coming from? It's coming from causes and conditions that were created. So, to explain better what is this interdependence of our own experiences and our own actions, is what is called the law of karma. So let's try in a simple way to explain it a little bit. Okay. Every action that we do at some point will interact with something else and will bring a result. Okay. There are some actions that we do that brings results that are pleasurable, some actions that we do that brings results that bring suffering. Okay. And here come two very important concepts which are fundamental in Buddhist practice and teachings and on the path, which is related to the karma, which I have never found the right word where to translate it. Basically because we do not have the concept in our languages. In English, in Italian, in Portuguese or Spanish, all the other languages which I know, which I have ever listened or talked in the West, I've never saw any word which really brings the right concept, basically because we lack the concept. So I will try first to explain the concept, and then we'll see some of the words that are used to translate it, because then we just need to choose a sound and we apply that concept to it, but do not get stuck with the word itself, okay? So, the first concept is that there are actions that we do. Actions mostly are of body, speech, or mind. So I will say a word, I will have a thought, I will make an action physically, make a choice, whatever. And then that cause will gradually interact with other situations. And then at some point, it will interact with a situation in which I am, which are so-called the conditions. These conditions, they manifest through what? The people that I interact with, the actions of the other people, the place where I am, the environment, and also everything else that is happening in the present. These are the conditions. So as I meet the conditions, what happens is that the causes of the past manifest in a result. The result normally it manifests as a sensation of pleasure or a sensation of suffering. But the situation that I experience and everything else is the result, the present is the result of the causes, which are the actions that I have done in the past. The actions that I have done in the past are the causes. And the conditions, which is the everything else which I interact in the present, that are the conditions. So, when we sum together the actions that I have done in the past, plus the conditions that I am experiencing in the present, these two put together gives me the way how I experience the present. Okay? This is whatever happens is the sum of these two. So, as we go through these two, there are some actions that we have done in the past that when meeting the conditions bring a result of pleasure. There are some actions that we have done in the past that when meeting conditions bring a result of suffering. And there are some actions that we have done in the past that when meeting the conditions in the present brings a neutral result. So whatever action that brings a result of pleasure is called in Sanskrit punya. In Tibetan it means the name sonam, which it's translated often as merit, virtuous actions, positive karma. We can try to find whatever other words to translate it. But the actual concept is that these were causes, actions, that bring a result of pleasure. These are called merits. Okay? Then we have actions that bring a result of suffering. And these are called negative actions, negativities, negative karma. Someone can translate it as sin, whatever. Okay? Whatever name we give to it as we translate it, the actual meaning is there are actions that when manifest their results, manifest in the form of suffering. There are actions that when manifest their result, always by entering in contact with conditions and then manifest their results, those that bring the result of pleasure and happiness, it's positive actions. Those that bring the result of suffering are negative actions. Those that bring neutral results, not pleasure or suffering, a neutral sensation, are neutral actions. Okay? So, the point that we have here, the big gap that we have actually here, is because out of our ignorance, when we experience a result of pleasure, we have no clue which were the causes that we created in the past. When we experience a result of suffering, we have no idea whatsoever which were the causes that we created in the past. And at the same time, when we are acting, we have no idea what type of results our actions will bring. Because we are not talking about immediate result. Like, if I say something to a person and the person answers back to me in a nice and gentle way which I like, the sensation of pleasure, okay, the action I did was a good action because it brought a good result. If I say something and the person reacts badly and I suffer from it, oh, this was a negative action because the person did me something wrong to me. That's not the way. This is conditions. What happens in the present as the just very right present where we experience things, these are the conditions through which things happen. So most of the things that we call the causes of our suffering normally are the conditions through which the causes manifest. Okay? What the other person tells us, the choices that the other person is doing, the situation, the environmental situation in which we are, the situation of our body in the present moment, and all of this are conditions through which the causes that we have done in the past will manifest. Okay? One important thing for us to understand within all of that is that actually there is no one to blame. There is no such a thing as who is let's say in English now, colpevole, the guilty one. Our tendency very often is when something happens, when we suffer about something, we must find the guilty one. Who is the one to point the finger and say that he's the one to blame? And at the same time, when we have a problem and we want to look for a solution, we want to find one solution. Who is the savior? We want someone to save us from the problem as we have someone that is the one to blame for the problem. And we experience ourselves just as if we were the victim of the world and the one to be saved. And this doesn't work. And I'm not talking about religion here. I'm talking about daily life. When something happens, oh, I am feeling this because that person did that. So he must stop for me to stop suffering. Then, on the other side comes someone that I need to help. Someone must do something for him to stop or he must stop. So it doesn't depend on me. Then there is something that I feel pleasure, or for me to feel pleasure, this must happen, that must happen, then I will feel pleasure. So, very often we live ourselves as if we were victims of the world. And one important thing is to stop being a victim. Stop being a victim doesn't mean being the guilty one also. Huh? We should not just shift the thing from finding someone to blame ourselves. That's not the point. There is no one to blame other than the complex interdependence in which we live. Okay? It's not because nothing happens out of a single cause. There are many, many, many things put together. There are many causes, plus the conditions, and all of this bring the result that we are. But this doesn't mean that the actions of other people or our own are without result and responsibility. You know? Sometimes people have a very wrong understanding about karma, and they have this understanding. They say, okay, everything that you experience is the result of your own karma. True. So I can slap on your face and say, did you like? No, that's your karma. I'm just helping you to manifest and to make mature, to ripen the negative causes you have done in the past. So say thank you to me. No? So don't blame me for what I'm doing to you, because if you are suffering through it, that's just your own karma and your own mental defilements. I have nothing to do with that. It's not exactly like that. If it would be like this, there would be no negative actions whatsoever, no? We are responsible of every action we do. If someone else is doing something in a way of harming and so on, which is a condition through which something negative I have done in the past will manifest as suffering, that the action of the other person is not the cause of my suffering, but is the condition through which a past cause manifests and ripens. But this doesn't mean that the person is not creating a cause himself or herself for whatever we'll experience in the future. So we are all responsible for our actions. And it's true, we do experience things which are a result of the causes and conditions. And the conditions can be the actions of other people. So I'm not saying that we are not responsible, each one, for our own actions, okay? And I'm not saying that when we experience something, it has nothing to do with the actions of others. It has a lot to do with the actions of others. But they are not the cause, they are just the condition. I don't know if it's clear, this difference. Okay? So, otherwise, we can go to the other extreme in which we just think, okay, there is no one to blame, it's all on me. So we take this blaming attitude and this victim attitude, and suddenly we put ourselves as being the victim of ourselves, and we are the one to blame for everything. And it's not like that either. We are part of an interdependence. And what I experience is the result of what I have done plus what other people are doing. What other people are doing in the present moment are the conditions that they put together with what I have done, they make the result. If the causes are missing, there can be no result. If the conditions are missing, the causes cannot manifest, so also there is no result. So the two come together. It's like the example of Shantideva. When something hits our arm, it depends on two things to have a pain. The thing hitting and the arm being there, no? So we create the causes, plus there are the conditions, and each one have their own part in the whole situation, you know. So it's very important for us to understand these aspects of karma, which is everything that we do is a cause that sooner or later will bring its own result. Unless we purify or eliminate it, but this is another point. Okay? Unless we eliminate that cause, that seed that we plant, sooner or later it will bring a result. So there is no action that is in vain. There is no action that will bring no results. Then, on the other side, what happens also is that there is no result that comes from no actions, without causes. So everything that we experience, every pleasurable, unpleasurable, or neutral sensation, everything that we experience, it's a result of the causes that we have done in the past, the actions that we have done in the past, the near past or the very far away past. plus the conditions that we are experiencing in the present moments, plus everything else with which we are interacting at the present moment. The two put together brings the result of what we are experiencing. So we cannot experience anything without having had causes or without having conditions. The third point is that karma is coherent, which means positive actions will bring positive results, negative actions will bring negative results, neutral actions will bring neutral results. This doesn't mean that it's something extremely technical, as sometimes people say, like, okay, somebody is lying to me because I lied to him before in another life. It's not like that, at least from my understanding. It's not like I have lied 252,000 times, so 252,000 times people will lie to me. It's not like that. It's not like I have done this to you in another life, so now you are doing this to me in this life. I don't think it's like that. Okay? It is more like I have done one action which was creating suffering, which was not positive. After we will talk more about what are positive and negative actions. And then after, it's like a seed that I have planted. And then suddenly, because of the interaction that I have, it's like the water and make that seed to ripen. It's not because it will not manifest exactly in the same precise way as I have done in the past. It's not something like this, Because very often there is this understanding. Oh, why this person is harming me in this way? It's because I have harmed him in the past exactly the same way? No. Maybe we did something, but it's not that the point. The fact is that when we do an action, that action is like an inertia, like an energy that remains there. And that when it gets like a seed that we plant, and when it gets the conditions, it will ripen. But it doesn't need to ripen precisely in the same way how we did in the past. It will give similar type of feeling and sensation, but it's not exactly in the same precise technical way that things need to happen. We can have many different causes that sum up in one result. We can have one causes that is divided into many small results. Okay? It's not like I did this, so I get that. It's not so precise in this manner, I think. And the fourth aspect of karma, so the third aspect is karma is coherent. And the fourth aspect of karma is the fact that karma is impermanent. The actions that we have done in the past, the causes that we have created, they are not permanent. They interact. And it's because of this that it's possible to make a cause that we have done in the past to become stronger or to eliminate it. That's why it's possible to do purification. That we will talk a little bit later about that. Okay? So, the point that I wanted to bring right now here is first interdependence. Then from interdependence, it brings us that the fact that there is an interdependence between the actions that we do and the situations and experiences that we have. And this is called karma. Karma literally means action. Karma is not destiny. Sometimes people understand karma as the destiny. Let's see what is my karma, no? And sometimes people with a very wrong understanding say, oh, when something good happened to me, oh, look what a good karma I have. Then when something bad happened, then we have point a finger to blame someone else, no? When something good happened, it's my karma. When something bad happened, it's your fault. It's not nothing to do with me. This means we really didn't understand karma. And it's not something to blame. It's just to understand that there's an interaction. And if I am experiencing a result, it's because cause and conditions were created. So I need to be careful not to enter into the same cycle, because our tendency is that when we experience something negative, we react in a negative way. Like we react in the same type of thing. So for example, it's very difficult if we are, let's say, walking in a road and suddenly someone gets upset with us or whatever, and then, spit in our eye. And then we are walking and then we are there, something that, okay, what we say, oh, right, I did something bad in the past and here I am experiencing the results. So there you go, today I met a condition through which I ripen the causes which I have done in the past, that okay, so good, and now I have less cause in the past, anyhow I could already clean my eye, no problem. No? At a minimum, normally we would generate some aversion towards the person. If not, using our own creativity to think how to harm the person and to answer back. If we do not open into harsh and for violent speech, if we do not react physically back in a negative way. But now our tendency normally is when we have the result of a negative action, which is suffering, we react with more negative actions. That's the tendency that we have. And the problem is that we don't have the same tendency for positive actions. That's why it's more difficult to accumulate positive than negative. And anyhow, we'll talk about this a little bit later. The important thing to understand is that karma, the past, the actions that we have done in the past is not something that is static. It's something that changes. According to the way how we interact with it in the present, it changes also. It can become stronger or it can become weaker. It doesn't matter if it was a cause for something positive or for something negative. It can become stronger or weaker. Okay? That's why it's possible to purify. So then, just after we'll explain what is the actual meaning of purification. Okay? But just one thing which I didn't say much in English. It's important for us to be careful, really, again, not to enter into the sense of guilt, not to enter in the sense of victim, also because there is no one to punish us. There is no such a thing as a reward and a punishment. There is just the interdependence between causes and results. It's like, if I put my hand on fire, will it be painful? Yes. Who is to blame for that? Nothing. To blame is the interdependence of my body with the fire. So pain will come. It's not because I'm being punished for something, whatever. It's simply, cause and result. And one time I just remembered before, I think one of the moments which I was really mostly upset in the past years. And it doesn't happen very often that I get upset, but that moment where I was really upset when I saw something and I quite controlled myself not to react during and after. It was when I saw a really wrong explanation of karma, given in a very strong way somehow. And there was this explanation which was done with images and so on. When the person dies and then there is a sort of final judgment and then there is man. It was done from a Buddhist perspective, that's why I got upset. Because each one can have their own ideas, but in Buddhism it's not like that. And then there was this big man behind a book with a person that have died and then was looking in the book and was saying, you did this and you did that, remember every action. This is good and you will be rewarded in this way. This is bad and you will be punished in that way, and this and that. And putting all together, there is more negative than possible, so you will go to hell. I was completely shocked. Because from my understanding and my belief, it has nothing to do with that. First of all, there is no one that is there pointing us, Even when we have the wheel of life, we have it depicted there, where there is this sort of monster holding the 6 realms of existence, and he's called the Lord of Death. Who is it? It's time. No one. It's the simple fact of impermanence and death and time. That time is always running, we cannot hold it. That's the Lord of Death. It's death itself, which is time. It's things are always going. We cannot stop it. It's not any sort of being or monster or demon or whoever that is going to come and harm us or do something. But it has nothing to do with that. And the other point, there is no such a thing as take all the karma that we have done, make a sum up. Okay, more positive, okay, you go to heaven. More negative, you go to hell. It's not like that. For every action we do, we can have a result. If in the moment of our death we make to ripen a positive action, then we'll have a good rebirth. If we put to ripen a negative action, it will bring us to a negative rebirth. but we will not lose all the positive actions that we have done or all the negative actions that we have done. Okay, anyhow, this is a whole other subject explaining how it happens, the process of rebirth and so on. But the main point is that there is no one to blame. There is no one that will punish us or will reward us. There is simply the interdependence within which we live. And the actions that we do, together with the conditions of the interactions that we have, brings results. That's all. Okay? I think this is important for us to understand in this way. All right? So, now, one more part which is important is to understand better what are positive actions and what are negative actions. Because we just explained what is punya and papam, or sonam and dikpa. Punya or sonam is the virtuous actions, papam or dikpa is the negative actions, the positive causes that will bring, when met with conditions, will bring positive results, and the negative actions that when met with conditions will bring negative results. Okay? So how do we understand what are the positive actions and what are negative actions? Because on the basis, all of us, we want to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. So once we understand that there is this law of cause and effect, we should have the awareness to say, I want to avoid what will generate suffering and I want to cultivate what generates happiness. Because I love myself, I want to be happy. So what is this? It's not so simple to define it. Buddha have done it for us, they have established generally what are negative actions and what are positive actions and so on. But to truly have a deeper understanding that it doesn't become some sort of dogma is not so simple. Okay, so let's try to do it. Buddha have defined it some which were like, generally speaking, negative actions. Let's start from that. And generally all the negative actions, all the actions are divided into actions of body, speech, and mind. And or combined actions. But normally we can have words that we say, thoughts that we have, actions physically that we do. Okay? And I would, nowadays in the modern times, I will extend the words into writing also. Okay? If I write something to someone, this is a way of communicating, so it's a way of speaking somehow. Okay? So, if we take the general explanation, we have like the 3 negative actions of body, 4 negative actions of speech, and 3 negative actions of mind. So we would have the 3 negative actions of body would be killing, stealing, and having a wrong sexual conduct or sexual misconduct. Then the negative actions, there are also other negative actions of body, like acting violently, physically to someone and so on. Then there is the 4 main negative actions of speech, which is to lie, to use our speech in an aggressive manner, to use the speech in a way that creates division between people, and to do idle speaking, just to speak nonsense. Okay? It is said that idle speaking is the smallest of all negative actions, but it's the one that we mostly do. So we accumulate a lot of it very often. Anyhow, then we have the 3 negative actions of mind, which is wishing for others' suffering. So it's this malevolent mind is like really to wish for others to suffer, harmful mind, a mind of harming others, to wish, to desire what we cannot have, napsem in Tibetan, and having wrong views. Wrong views, it's more complicated. It's like not believing in the law of karma, which is I don't care whatever I do, and it's important is nobody catch me right away, then after I have no problem with it. So what's the problem if I am killing or stealing or doing? If nobody knows it, nothing is happening, then nothing, So this will bring many other negative results also. But there are many different forms of wrong views, but this we will not enter into the detail right now on that. One important thing is that also in Buddha's teachings he explained that the actions of body and speech, if done with a pure motivation, then they cannot be negative. So a bodhisattva, with a motivation truly of altruism, with no any selfishness within, with truly pure love and compassion towards others, and with wisdom, the stealing, the lying, the killing, it can be something positive. But that's why actually the motivation is what mainly defines what type of action we are doing. It's mainly defined by motivation. But still, it's not something that we should make an excuse and say, okay, I was lying, but my motivation was good, so that's fine. Here we are talking about being a bodhisattva, acting with really no any selfishness behind, acting really truly with love and compassion, unconditional love and compassion, and with wisdom, then okay. But this is for, let's say, for the higher levels, okay? I think for myself at least, better to stay more careful. We should not say, oh no, this is a good lie, no problem, okay, oh yes, this is for the good of all, I have with a good motivation, let's still hear it's not exactly like that, okay? So, we need to be careful at the same time. But truly to explain what are positive actions and negative actions without entering into this more specific type of explanation and without entering in some sort of something that may look like a dogma, I have thought a lot about it for some time and I got to the following conclusion. Mostly, we cannot say 100%, but mostly, whenever we do a negative action, we know it through our body. Whenever a negative action is done, physically, mostly, we know that we are not doing the right thing. It normally generates tension within ourselves. So whenever we do something and we feel that there is tension inside, it means something is not right in the way that we are acting. When we do something and then we feel that, okay, we are truly relaxed and we are well inside, then this means that we are doing the right thing. This means that what we are doing is positive. There is nothing wrong within it. We need to be careful to judge this feeling not from a mental preconcept of good and bad, but by the actual feeling as we are within the action. I don't know if it's clear, this difference. One thing is to say, no, I cannot play the bell because then I go to hell, okay? So this is something bad, then I go there. The feeling is really nice, but mentally I know I cannot do it, so I get fear and I get tension out of it. So we are talking not about the mental part, I'm talking about how we truly feel as we are within that situation. And mostly, negative actions are the negative and are the actions done with anger, are the actions done with hatred, with aversion, with jealousy, envy. They are the actions done with pride, with selfishness, are the actions done in which we take away the other and we don't care for the other and we only care for ourselves. These are mostly the negative actions. While positive actions are mostly the actions done with love and compassion and caring. Most of the positive actions are the actions in which we help others to avoid suffering or we do something that brings benefit and well-being. These are mostly the positive actions that we do. So generosity is a positive action, keeping our virtuous commitments is a positive action, and so on. Developing ourselves in order to be of benefit for others is a positive action. So, this is trying to make in a simple way what we can define as positive and negative. And it's not something so simple, but mainly it's defined by motivation. I say mainly because even independently of the motivation, we are still responsible for our action. So one example is that let's say that we are in a very high building, let's say in the 10th floor, cooking chocolate cake with a lot of children. So we are teaching children how to bake a chocolate cake. So there we are with 20 children in a small kitchen, showing them how to bake chocolate cake. And then suddenly what happened is that we put the cake in the oven, we are waiting for the cake, everybody very happy and nice, but suddenly the oven starts to catch on fire. So the oven starts to catch on fire, start to come a black smoke from the oven because some plastic wherever is being burned, and this is toxic. And then I try to take the children out of the kitchen, but the door is locked. I cannot take the children out of there, and I'm so worried that it will harm all the children that is there. And what I do? I want to help the children, so the motivation is good. So the solution that I find in the moment is I take the oven, and even though I burn my hands, I take the oven and I throw it out of the window. So the action to be complete must have 4 parts: intention, action, completion of the action, and rejoicing of the action. Okay. So which was my action? Saving the children from being harmed in the kitchen. So was my motivation good? I would say yes. Did I do the action with that intention? Yes. Did I complete the action of saving that children from that harm? Yes. I rejoice about it? Yes. So that's a positive action which is complete. I finished, my feeling is good. Oh, I did it. Go good. But suddenly I listen to the sound of the oven falling down after 10 floors, and it falls on the head of a person that is passing by. And I kill that person. Did I have the intention to kill him? No. Did I kill? Yes. Sure, there was no motivation. I didn't do the action to kill, but I killed, and I do not rejoice. So from the 4 aspects, 3 are missing. But I'm still responsible. Okay? So it's much smaller than if I do it with the intention and all the other things, if the action is complete. But this doesn't mean I am not responsible for it. Is this clear? Also from the legal point of view. There's a big difference if I go there, I check the person every day, what time the person is passing. I organize the class on purpose because I want to throw the oven. And then at some time I make something on the oven for it to catch on fire, so I have the excuse. Then I calculate the time the person is coming. I go there, I look, and I throw the oven to get on the person. I did it. It's a complete different thing. Legally, but karmically speaking, it's a complete different thing. So if I do an action with the intention and with the action to do it, and I rejoice about it, and I complete it, and I rejoice about it, that's a complete action. Okay? I want to help a person, I go to help the person, I'm able to help the person is not grateful, or why I did it. The action is not complete, because I did not rejoice. If I go to help the person, I'm able to help the person, I do the help, oh, how good I did it. Then the action is complete. Okay? So, even sometimes we do something with a negative action, with a negative intention, but there is a positive side effect. And somehow we are responsible also. We don't get so much merits out of it because there was no intention. In the same way, when we do something negative that there was no intention, we don't get so much negative karma from it. Much less than if we did with the intention, but we are still responsible for it. Okay? Now, with this, the next step that we will see is actually the part in which we look at the fact that karma is impermanent. And so it's changing. So how do we use this for our advantage? Because what we have done, somehow it's done. But how can we interact with what we have done in order to make the positive actions that we have done to become stronger, and in order to make the negative actions that we have already done to become lower. Not slower, to become weaker and possibly to eliminate it. That's the concept of purification. We do not purify by suffering. One thing is to experience the result of an action. Another thing is to eliminate the action, to eliminate the cause, without having the need to experience the result. That's purification. Okay? To purify is different than to experience the result. To extinguish a negative cause by experiencing the result, it's like if I had a debt with someone, I can eliminate the debt by paying it, or I can eliminate the debt by getting an amnesty from it. The person can say, okay, you don't need to pay me anymore, and everything is fine. There is a big difference between the two, no? But both of them I am extinguishing the debt. So when we experience the result of the past, we are extinguishing that cause. But to purify means to extinguish the cause without needing to experience the result. That's the meaning of purification. Okay? But after lunch we will explain better more about purification and we will do the practice together. But before lunch, we just do a little bit of the mantra Vajrasattva together also. So then after this afternoon and tomorrow, we go more into the meaning of purification and then this more detailed explanation of how to do the practice and the visualization and the meaning of the mantra and so on. Okay? Soto kayo me bawa, supo kayo me bawa, anurakto me bawa, sarva siddhi me prayatsa, sarva karma sutsa me, sitam shriyam kuru hu, ha 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 ho, bhagavan sarva tata gata, vajra mame munsa, vajra bhava maha samaya sattva, ahum pe. Om Vajrasattva samaya manopalaya, Vajrasattva tenopatishta didro meba. Kayo me bawa, supo kayo me bawa, anurakto me bawa, korohon, ha ha ho. Tata gata vajra bhava maha samaya sattva ahum pe. Om Vajrasattva samaya manopalaya, Vajrasattva tenopatishta didro me bawa, Soto kayo me bawa, supo kayo me bawa, anurakto me bawa, sarva siddhi me prayatsa, sarva karma sutsa me, siddhan shriyam kurohum, ha 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 ho bhagavan, sarva tata gata vajra mame muns, vajra bhava maha samaya sattva, ahum pe. Jetsun lame kutse rabten chi namkara tinle chochur gepadang losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munsel tatu ne gyurchi Nimo dele tsindele nime kuyan delekshin Nintsen takto delekpe, koncho sumke jingelo, koncho sumke ngodrup tsol,
Concho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.